In the previous video, we showed you how to add content using content blocks. You can also add content to your site using free-form options. Going back to the Insert tab on the right side of the screen, I can click Text Box to add a text box to the bottom of the page. As always, it will open up a text editor where I can type whatever message I need my audience to see, and of course I can change the font to match the styles and needs of my website. When adding freeform content, I can always resize the content and rearrange it on the page as well. I can click and drag the blue circles on either side of this text box to resize it. I can also click and drag the text box into a different section. You'll notice that when I drag the text box, a light blue grid appears on the screen. This will help you line up your content with your other content and keep everything organized. In addition to text boxes, I can also use the Insert tab to add an image to my site. Clicking on Image will bring up your Google Drive and show you any images you have saved. You can also add an image through a URL or through a Google image search. As always, I can click and drag the image to a different location, as well as resize the image using the blue dots on either side of the box. Another option is to embed content. So by clicking the Embed button, I can paste the embed code that you would get from certain websites or presentations to include them here in my site. And lastly, I can add a document, slides, or PDF from my Google Drive. Clicking the Drive button will bring up a quick view of your Google Drive, and from here I can select a document to attach to my site. One of the best things about adding content straight from your Google Drive is that any documents or slides that you share can be viewed by the people accessing your website without ever having to leave your website. So for example, when I add this slide deck, people who visit my website can click through this slide deck presentation without ever having to leave my website. Just make sure that your share settings are updated so people who visit the site can view the document. For another example, I will add a Google Doc to my website. The great thing about it is that people who visit my site will be able to scroll through and read this doc without ever having to leave my website. Again, I just have to make sure that my share permissions allow others to see this document. Although you'll most likely be adding text boxes, images, and files from Google Drive most often, there are actually a few other options on different types of content we can add from our Insert tab. As you can see here, some of the options include a collapsible group, a table of contents, buttons, etc. Adding a placeholder adds a place for you to add content later. This is super helpful if you're trying to figure out the arrangement of your page, but you're just not sure what type of content needs to go there just yet. Clicking the YouTube button will bring up the YouTube search option, so I can find a video straight from YouTube to add. I can also just search using the URL. Another option is to add a calendar. This links directly with your Google Calendar, so if you're wanting to share important dates with others, you may consider creating a separate Google Calendar to share on the website. Yet another option is to add a map to your site. If you just click the map button and insert it, you will just see kind of the world map. However, you can type in a specific address if you want the map to start on that address. Feel free to play around and explore these different options and see what each button does. You can always undo by clicking the undo button or holding Command Z. And of course, to keep everything neat and organized, I can click, hold, and drag different content to where it needs to go on the page. When adding content loosely like this, without using content blocks, it is so important to keep everything organized. The last thing we'll show you is just how to make it a little bit easier to keep everything organized. So here on my Sandbox site, I've kind of just added all my content loosely. There's no really rhyme or reason to anything here. And so of course I can click and drag to rearrange things, but another option is I can actually add content blocks even after I've added all this content loosely. And so I'll click a content box, and then I can just click and drag my content into those preset boxes. So for this Google Doc, for example, I had it just kind of loose. I click and I drag it to fit into that content block. And so now just like that, I have nice, neat blocks where all my content fits perfectly. And so now I'm just going to take all my loose content and organize it. I'll speed this part up, but you can see that I just take everything and I drop it into these content boxes to make everything neat and organized. And of course, I don't want to leave those text boxes empty, so I'll go ahead and type in a header and some body text for each part. So again, feel free to play around with your site, add as much or as little content as you want, and really just try to keep everything organized and neat and easy to view for your visitors. Remember that you can hold Command Z to undo or press the undo button, and nothing goes live until you hit that publish button. So there really is no risk to trying something new or adding as much content as you want.